How to Escape Mediocrity and Mental Illness, the Road Less Traveled. In the tapestry of human existence, we find ourselves at a crossroads. On one path lies the comfortable, the familiar life of mediocrity that promises safety but delivers stagnation. On the other, a road less traveled, fraught with challenges but rich with the promise of growth and self-realization. It is this second path that we must choose if we are to escape the clutches of mediocrity and the specter of mental illness that haunts our modern world. As we embark on this journey together, let us first acknowledge a fundamental truth: life is difficult. This statement, simple in its brevity yet profound in its implications, forms the cornerstone of our quest for personal growth. Many of us resist this truth, believing that life should be easy, that happiness should come without effort. We moan about our problems, our burdens, our difficulties, as if the universe has somehow wronged us by presenting challenges. But what if we were to embrace this difficulty? What if, instead of viewing life's challenges as obstacles to be avoided, we saw them as opportunities for growth? This shift in perspective is the first step on our journey out of mediocrity. Consider for a moment, when have you felt most alive? When have you experienced the deepest sense of fulfillment? I would wager that these moments came not in times of ease, but in times of challenge, when you pushed beyond your perceived limits, when you faced your fears, when you overcame what seemed insurmountable. Yet, despite knowing this on some level, we often choose the path of least resistance. We avoid our problems, hoping they'll disappear if we ignore them long enough. We blame others for our circumstances, relinquishing our power to change them. We numb ourselves with distractions, alcohol, drugs, endless scrolling on our phones, anything to escape the discomfort of facing our own shortcomings. But here's the cruel irony: in trying to avoid suffering, we create more suffering. The problems we ignore don't disappear, they fester and grow. The potential we refuse to actualize becomes a weight, a constant reminder of what could have been. And in this avoidance, we lay the groundwork for mental illness, anxiety, depression, a pervasive sense of unfulfillment that colors our entire existence. So, what is the alternative? It is to embrace suffering, not in a masochistic sense, but in recognition of its transformative power. As the ancient Greek tragedian Aeschylus wrote, "He who learns must suffer." And even in our sleep, pain that cannot forget falls drop by drop upon the heart, and in our own despair against our will comes wisdom to us by the awful grace of God. This wisdom, born of suffering, is the key to unlocking our potential. It is through facing our problems head-on, through enduring the discomfort of growth, that we forge ourselves anew. Each challenge we overcome, each fear we face, becomes a stepping stone on our path to self-actualization. But this path is not easy. It requires courage, discipline, and above all, a willingness to confront the parts of ourselves we'd rather ignore. It demands that we look unflinchingly at our flaws, our weaknesses, our deepest fears. And in doing so, we open ourselves to the possibility of true change. As we stand at this threshold, I ask you, what parts of yourself have you been avoiding? What truths have you been unwilling to face? These questions may be uncomfortable, but they are the gateway to your liberation. For it is only by acknowledging where we are that we can begin the journey to where we want to be. In the words of M. Scott Peck, the truth is that our finest moments are most likely to occur when we are feeling deeply uncomfortable, unhappy, or unfulfilled. For it is only in such moments, propelled by our discomfort, that we are likely to step out of our ruts and start searching for different ways or truer answers. So let us embrace this discomfort. Let us welcome the challenges that life presents, not as burdens but as opportunities for growth. For it is in the crucible of adversity that we forge our true selves, transcending mediocrity and laying the foundation for a life of meaning, purpose, and profound fulfillment. The alchemy of suffering, transmuting pain into personal power. As we delve deeper into our journey of self-transformation, we encounter a paradox that lies at the heart of human experience. Suffering, the very thing we instinctively avoid, is often the catalyst for our greatest growth. This is the alchemy of suffering, the process by which we transmute our pain into personal power. Consider the moments in your life when you've experienced the most profound changes. Were they not born from periods of intense challenge or discomfort? It's in these crucibles of adversity that we forge our character, hone our resilience, and discover depths of strength we never knew we possessed. Yet our modern society often teaches us to numb our pain, to seek instant gratification, to run from discomfort. We're sold countless ways to distract ourselves from our inner turmoil, from mindless entertainment to substance abuse. But in doing so, we rob ourselves of the very experiences that could lead to our evolution. What if, instead of fleeing from our suffering, we learn to sit with it? To examine it closely, to understand its roots, and to use it as a compass pointing towards areas in our lives that need attention and growth. This is not to glorify suffering for its own sake, but to recognize its potential as a powerful teacher. When we embrace our suffering, we open ourselves to profound insights. Depression, for instance, often viewed as a pathology to be eliminated, can be seen as a signal that something in our lives needs to change. It's our psyche's way of telling us that we've strayed from our authentic path, that we're living in a way that doesn't align with our true values or potential. By reframing our relationship with suffering, we can transform it from a burden into a tool for self-discovery. Each challenge becomes an opportunity to know ourselves more deeply, to shed old patterns that no longer serve us, and to emerge stronger and more authentic. But this process requires courage. It demands that we face our shadows, confront our fears, and challenge our long-held beliefs about ourselves and the world. It asks us to step into the unknown, to embrace uncertainty, and to trust in our capacity for growth. As we navigate this path, we might ask ourselves, what am I running from? What pain am I avoiding that, if faced, could lead to my transformation? What old wounds am I carrying that, if healed, could free up energy for growth and creativity? Remember, the goal is not to seek out suffering, but to approach the inevitable challenges of life with a new perspective. To see them not as obstacles to be overcome, but as integral parts of our journey towards self-realization. In this light, even our darkest moments can become sacred. They are the forge in which we temper our spirit, the fire that burns away what is inessential and reveals our true nature. As we learn to embrace our suffering, we discover a wellspring of strength and wisdom within us that we never knew existed. This is the alchemy of suffering, the mysterious process by which our pain, when faced with courage and consciousness, transforms into the gold of personal growth. It is through this alchemical process that we transcend mediocrity, escape the traps of mental illness, and step onto the road less traveled, the path of continuous growth and self-actualization. Confronting the specter of laziness, the battle against our inner entropy, as we continue our journey on the road less traveled, we encounter a formidable adversary, one that lurks within the depths of our own psyche. This enemy, more insidious than any external challenge, is laziness. It is the force of entropy manifesting in our lives. The The subtle yet powerful pull towards stagnation and mediocrity. Laziness is not merely the desire for rest or the occasional indulgence in leisure. It is a pervasive force that seeks to undermine our efforts at growth and self-improvement. It whispers seductive rationalizations, convincing us that our current state is good enough, that change is too difficult, that our dreams are unrealistic. But here's a truth that may shake you to your core. Laziness is not just a personal failing, it is, as M. Scott Peck suggests, the one and only original sin. It is a universal human tendency, a gravitational force pulling us away from our potential and towards the comfort of the familiar. This laziness takes many forms. Sometimes it manifests as procrastination, the endless deferral of important tasks. Other times it appears as fear, the reluctance to step out of our comfort zones and face new challenges. Often it disguises itself as busyness, filling our days with trivial activities to avoid the hard work of genuine growth. The most dangerous aspect of laziness is its ability to camouflage itself. We tell ourselves that we're not lazy because we work long hours or juggle multiple responsibilities. But true laziness is not about the quantity of our activity, but its quality. Are we engaging in work that truly challenges us and pushes us towards growth? Or are we merely going through the motions, staying busy to avoid the discomfort of real change? To combat this inner entropy, we must first recognize it for what it is. We must become aware of the myriad ways in which laziness manifests in our lives. This requires brutal honesty with ourselves, a willingness to see past our own rationalizations and excuses. Once we've identified our laziness, the real work begins. We must cultivate discipline not as a form of self-punishment, but as an act of self-love. Discipline is the antidote to laziness, the force that propels us forward when our motivation wanes. But how do we cultivate this discipline? It starts with small, consistent actions. We set goals and commit to them, no matter how we feel in the moment. We establish routines that support our growth, even when they're uncomfortable. We learn to delay gratification, understanding that true fulfillment comes not from immediate pleasure, but from the satisfaction of overcoming challenges. As we engage in this battle against our inner entropy, we might ask ourselves, what dreams have I abandoned due to laziness? What potential within me remains untapped because I've chosen the path of least resistance? What could I achieve if I committed to overcoming my laziness, even just a little bit each day? Remember, the goal is not to eliminate laziness entirely. That's an impossible and potentially harmful aim. Instead, we seek to recognize it, to understand it, and to gradually reduce its influence over our lives. We aim to shift the balance, to let our desire for growth and self-actualization outweigh the pull towards stagnation. In this struggle against laziness, we find an unexpected ally: joy. As Friedrich Nietzsche suggested, we should approach this battle not with grim determination, but with laughter and lightness. We can find humor in our own tendencies towards laziness and joy in each small victory over it.by confronting our laziness head-on. By choosing the discomfort of growth over the comfort of stagnation, we take a crucial step on the road less traveled. We move closer to escaping mediocrity and mental illness and towards a life of purpose, growth, and genuine fulfillment. The symphony of self-actualization, harmonizing growth, joy, and transcendence. As we near the culmination of our journey on the road less traveled, we arrive at a profound realization: the path of personal growth, while challenging, is not one of unrelenting struggle. Rather, It is a delicate balance, a symphony of suffering and joy, of challenge and triumph, of deep introspection and expansive connection. The great paradox of this journey is that as we learn to embrace our suffering, to confront our laziness, and to push beyond our perceived limitations, we unlock a wellspring of joy that was previously inaccessible to us. This is not the fleeting happiness that comes from external achievements or material gains, but a profound sense of fulfillment that arises from living in alignment with our deepest truths and highest potential. Consider the lives of those who have walked this path before us, figures like the Buddha or Jesus Christ. These weren't individuals marked solely by their capacity for suffering, but also by their ability to experience profound joy and peace. They embodied the paradox of human existence, that our greatest suffering can lead to our greatest joy, and that true wisdom encompasses both. As we progress on this path, we begin to see our challenges not as burdens but as opportunities for growth. We develop a curiosity about our own inner workings, eager to understand and transform the parts of ourselves that have held us back. This curiosity becomes a source of excitement, turning our inner journey into an adventure of self-discovery. But this journey is not just about individual transformation. As we grow and evolve, we naturally begin to extend our sphere of concern beyond ourselves. We recognize our interconnectedness with all of life and our responsibility to contribute positively to the world around us. Our personal growth becomes a catalyst for positive change in our relationships, our communities, and potentially the world at large. This is where we truly begin to transcend mediocrity. We move beyond the narrow confines of self-interest and into a broader, more expansive way of being. We start to see our lives not just in terms of personal achievement, but in terms of the impact we can have on others and the legacy we will leave behind. In this state of expanded awareness, mental illness loses its grip on us. The anxieties and depressions that once plagued us begin to dissolve in the light of our newfound purpose and connection. We realize that many of our psychological struggles were symptoms of a life unlived, of potential unrealized. As we near the end of our exploration, I invite you to ask yourself, what would my life look like if I fully committed to this path of growth and self-actualization? How might my relationships change? How might I contribute to the world? What joys might I discover that I've never even imagined? Remember, this journey is not about reaching a final destination. There is no endpoint where we can say, I've arrived, I'm fully actualized. Instead, it's about embracing a way of being, one that values growth over comfort, truth over illusion, and love over fear. The road less traveled is not an easy path, but it is infinitely rewarding. It asks everything of us, but in return, it offers the possibility of a life lived to its fullest potential, a life of depth, meaning, and profound fulfillment. As we conclude, let us recognize that each step we take on this path, each challenge we face, each moment of growth we experience, is a victory not just for ourselves, but for all of humanity. For in choosing to grow, in refusing to settle for mediocrity, we light the way for others to do the same. The symphony of self-actualization awaits us. Will you answer its call? Will you take that courageous step onto the road less traveled? The choice, as always, is yours.